Writing is a very personal process. It's hard to give someone advice on the right way to write because there is no right way. What we can do, though, is try to understand how we write. While trying to analyze something I do so subconsciously, I've boiled my writing process into 3 steps. These 3 steps are where my mind wanders and what I am thinking when it comes to writing. As much as I feel that I've mastered my writing process, my first step is always the same: dread. Writing asks a lot of you, and that is why my process always begins with me dreading it. During this step, though, is when I muster the strength to begin. I try to understand what is being asked of me and how I can go about achieving this. I start with a thesis. I think the best way to start a paper is with your main point. This way, you can structure the rest of the body to stay consistent with the central theme. Then, I organize my notes, I conduct research, I create outlines, and I pull quotes from textbooks. I feel like the purpose of my outlining step is to get all of my thoughts down before I forget them. Sandra Pearl emphasizes the idea that before you have the words, you have a sense of where you will begin. She calls this felt sense. The next logical step is to start writing. With the help of the outline I've created, I can easily scaffold my paper. I deem this stage the ego boost. When I start writing and I get on a roll, I start to believe that my mind is extremely powerful when it comes to writing essays. Hence, the ego boost. During this stage, I employ a technique Pearl coins recursive writing. In contrast to Peter Elbow's just write mentality, Pearl argues that writing is a recursive process. I naturally go back, reread, arrange, change, and edit my words as I write. During this stage, I find it is important to warrant time to allow myself to take breaks. Writing gets tiring. Pearl questions where writing comes from within our bodies, and I can feel it in my head. My head starts to hurt, and my body starts to ache after I've been writing for a while. So, I believe that this stage works best and produces the best writing when I can do it over a few days. I've deemed the final stage of my writing process relief. This stage begins after I've finished writing. There's not much left to do at this point. I might read my paper aloud a few times and make minor adjustments before it gets turned in. I edit while I write, and I don't like to write multiple drafts because when I type the last period, I like to be done. I turn in a paper and I feel a weight lifting off my shoulders. I feel relieved. This is my process, and it has been successful for me overall, but there is no correct way to write. It is all about finding what works well for you personally. My biggest takeaway from Peter Elbow's chapters on growing and cooking was when he concluded by saying, if you have a way of writing that works well for you, keep it and teach it to others. And as a pre-service English teacher, I hope to maybe use my method to help people who struggle with writing so they can learn to love it too.